Well, hello everybody, it's Big Mike from Big Mike and Lola. We recently did a video where we compared the Kastking Rover 60 to the Piscifun Chaos XS 50. Well, in the mail this week I got some Piscifun Chaos XS 60 reels. So I wanted to compare the 50 with the 60. In addition to that, because there are some similarities, I'm also going to go over a little bit on the Kastking Rover 60 again. Kind of compare between the 50 and the 60 of the Chaos XS to the 60 of the Rover. I was quite surprised in the differences between the Chaos XS 50 and the 60. One thing to note, I paid my money for all these reels. I'm not sponsored by either company. What you have here is my honest opinion. So with that, stick around, we'll switch camera views and we'll pull up an overhead shot so we can go over tearing down the three reels and comparing and contrasting the three of them. Thanks for watching. As always, please like and subscribe, and we'll be back in a moment.
Welcome back, everybody. So the things that I really liked about the Piscifun Chaos XS 50 were the thumb bar release, as well as the floating spool. So the spool spins independently of the shaft. The 6-pin centrifugal braking system. So I actually thought that these would move over to the 60. I was incorrect on that. So the one thing that I do like about the 60 over the 50 is that there are 4 knurled pins that hold on the reel seat versus 2 on the Chaos 50. Otherwise, the spool on the Chaos XS 60, first it has a 2-pin centrifugal braking system, and the spool is attached to the shaft. It does not spin independently. It has the push button release, which I knew about, but I still prefer the thumb bar. And I thought I was going to get the 6-pin centrifugal braking system and the independent spool, and I was incorrect in my assumptions. So both of these reels have a 5.3 to 1 gear ratio. The 50 has a 20-pound drag versus a 22-pound drag on the 60. They both will have 24 inches per turn retrieve rate. And the line capacity, they measure it in 15-pound mono, 250 on the Chaos XS 50, and 305 on the 60. So unless you're going to be going with 50-pound mono, I really don't think that the additional line capacity is required in the 60 over the 50. I was simply hoping to get the extra pins on the reel seat and get to keep the independent spool as well as the 6-pin centrifugal braking system, neither of which are the case. One thing that I have noticed as I went through the videos is that there is a bend in the handle on the XS50. I don't know if it came that way or if somehow got bent with me, but I have not used this reel that much. So I was a little frustrated that it did bend back. It took some force, but it bent back fine. So all of the great features of the 60 that I thought were going to be there just aren't there. The 50 comes in at $55.99, while the 60 is $58.99. Now, the external side plate on the left-hand side is actually a hair smaller on the 60 than it is on the 50. So these parts aren't even interchangeable. They do seem to share the same handle. The brass gear appears to be the same. So that's the brass main gear. Both of them have a ball bearing as part under the spool tension knob. They both have 6+1 ball bearings. However, because of the differences in the spool, you have one on each side of the spool within the frame, or the side plates that hold the reel in the spool in place and allow it to spin more freely. You also have a anti-reverse bearing behind the handle. You have another bearing here in the inside side plate, which is similar yet different on both of them, but they both have a bearing there. So that gets me to 3 on here. 2 are in the handle on either one. And that 6th bearing, that's where it gets interesting. On the 60, it is actually on the level wind mechanism on the worm gear shaft. That isn't the case on the 50. On the 50, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there's the 6th one. So there's where all the bearings are on that. You just simply have 3 bearings supporting the spool shaft on the 50 versus 1, 2 on the 60. So you got one here. Now this is not a bearing on the 50. On the 60 it is, but on the 50, because it already has 3 bearings on the spool shaft, it just has a hole for the spool to sit in and ride. Okay. And just to kind of show you how the inside of these wheels work. So this gear, or this gear, the smaller portion meshes up with this gear, which then turns and drives the gear for the level wind with the smaller gear. The larger gear, that is actually the line clicker. Same is, not the same, but very similar on the 60. This plate is actually a different size, and like I say, you've got a bearing here on the 60 where you don't have on the 50. But otherwise, it's all very similar on that size. So the small part, the small cog underneath the large nylon cog here, plastic cog, is what moves the level wind system, see? And then this pushes down once your spool's in there and hits this gear, and that's what makes the bait clicker sound. So those are the big differences between the 50 and the 60. Now, I've already done a review on the 50, or I'm sorry, on the Kastking Rover 60, but I wanted to kind of compare and contrast since I've got them right here. So the spool, again, is a fixed spool and rides on, or has 2 centrifugal braking system pins. And just trying to pull that one off, I pulled it all the way off. And there it went. We'll take care of that later. So again, it doesn't have the independent spool. It comes with the paddle handle versus the power handle. It does have a brass main gear, just like the Piscifuns do. The gear looks similar, but it is definitely not the same. The Rover has this gear, which it appears to be metal. But it's not. I don't think it's brass. If it is, you've got me fooled. Now, the Rover does have the spool tension knob on each side of the reel, which is nice. It also says it has 6 bearings. I could only find 5 on the schematics. So it says it has 6 plus 1. I only found 5 plus the 1 anti-reverse. Now the Chaos is also a the Rover is also a 5.3 to 1 retrieve ratio with 20 pounds of drag, 25.9 inches per turn, and it uses 16-pound mono as its measure for the line capacity, and it's at 250 yards as well. So it'll hold just a little bit more line than the Chaos XS 50. It does have the 4-pin attachment to the frame for the reel foot, excuse me. And also has the thumb bar versus the push button. The thing is, when you look up reviews for the Rover, after about 6 months, people start complaining that the reel feels gritty. Say they've cleaned it, lubed it, but it still feels gritty. And most report that it is between this gear and the pinion gear. So that grittiness in and of itself is frustrating. And I don't want to suggest it as a good reel in this price range. It comes in at $57.99 versus $55.99 for the Chaos XS from Piscifun. I do like the bait clicker engagement on the Rover. I do like that second spool tension knob on the Rover. With the Piscifun, this one just kind of rotates here. It's similar, I mean it's different from, but it kind of reminds me how the Abu Garcia, some of them have it on the top and you have to slide it up and down. It's kind of that sliding feel. And again, plastic versus some sort of metal here. As far as the longevity, I haven't had the Piscifun Chaos XS reels long enough to give an opinion. I haven't heard reviews that report any longevity issues, but the reel is fairly new. For my money, the winner is the Piscifun Chaos XS 50. Unless you're using 50-pound mono, I don't expect the line capacity difference between the 50 and the 60 to matter for catfishing. The 50 simply has more of the features I want, such as the spool being independent from the spool shaft and the 6-pin centrifugal braking system, although I do wish it had the 4-pin connection between the reel foot and the frame of the reel. As always, I want to thank each and every one of you for taking the time to watch this video. If you liked the video, please click the thumbs up button and consider subscribing to the channel. As always, I'll see you out on the water.